I'm here with my business partner in Singapore, James, and I'm stuck in the US because of COVID. James, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, things are good. We just got out of our lockdown here in Singapore, so we feel a bit more free now. So it's been nice.
All right, James and I are going to talk to you guys today about masterminding. So, if you don't know what masterminding is, we're going to jump into that. We'll talk about how our mastermind works and then also share a few stories about real estate too, right?
Yeah, for our mastermind, we definitely have grown a lot from it, and it's definitely helped me personally in my personal growth as an investor, and hopefully you guys can catch a few things as well.
What is a mastermind, if you can tell the viewer?
I mean, you probably could talk more about how the term was coined, but did it come from a book that you read?
As far as I know, yeah, it came from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. At least that's when it was introduced to me. And
Okay.
essentially, I mean, Napoleon Hill kind of created this group of people, within his mind that was a mastermind. And it's basically a group of people that meets together and they synergize. They don't all have to be from the
Mm,
same background or industry, but they're discussing a topic and they're looking at it from different angles and they're poking holes in the idea and they're giving resources. Yeah, do you have anything to add to that?
yeah, I mean, just personally from just looking at our mastermind itself, right? We have four, including you and I. There are two others. There's four people, and some of us we have some similar background, but we all have different interests. And because we've come together, we try to make it a bi-weekly meetup. And it used to be when Josh, you were here in Singapore, we would meet up physically with all four of us because the other two guys are also in Singapore, although they're U.S. citizens as well. And we would meet up and discuss different ideas. We would bring ideas to the table, and then we would either rip them apart or support them. And it was just kind of fun, just trying to problem solve together. So I think what Mastermind has done for me personally is that when I look back when we started the Mastermind, which was what, around 2 years ago, possibly.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's about 2 years ago to this point now. I think 2 years ago, I would never have these type of conversations about coffee business or maybe even entrepreneurship, right? It was all these thoughts have been fostered in a mastermind and really having that social support to kind of push you to move forward. So, I mean, I take notes in our mastermind, right? And I look at my notes from 2 years ago. We were merely just talking about ideas.
Yeah.
But here we are, a year and a half, 2 years later, we're executing ideas. We're not successful yet, but we're moving towards that path of accomplishing something, and we're not just sitting around, chatting about, oh, that could be a good idea. We're actually pushing each other to do things, and that's the beautiful thing about a mastermind for me, at least.
Yeah, right on. Let's back up a little bit and kind of discuss what makes a good mastermind. Because I think if our viewers are still tuned into this, then they're probably like wanting to know more about a mastermind. If you're not in a mastermind already, here we go. Like for me personally, and I'd love your take on it, a good mastermind is going to have at least four people. I think five is even better. Three is a little hard, but 4 to 5 people is really good because you're going to get a good diversity of thought, and you're going to have enough time to express your ideas and to be able to talk out things, and then you're going to have enough people to listen to from. You're going to, like I said, have that diversity of idea. I think if you have 3 people, the problem is there could be a little too much groupthink, um, and that could be a little dangerous because you don't really ever test the idea the way it needs to be tested, and you don't have someone being pessimistic about it that will allow you to see the blind spots in the idea. And then if you have maybe 6, 7, 8 people in your mastermind, you're never going to get to talk. I mean, otherwise the masterminds are going to be 2 hours, 3 hours long.
Right. I think definitely, keeping it to a 1 hour time block is good because then that determines commitment as well. I think having individuals that are committed every other week showing up and giving that 1 hour time is really important. So you gotta, when you find people, tell them to commit to this, or at least ask, can you commit to this? because if the guys don't show up, it's not helpful at all. Um, but also another thing is I think for a successful mastermind is that you got to come a little bit prepared, at least come with some ideas, and be ready to be open, open to having other people criticize your ideas and not feeling hurt by it. I
Mm.
think we've brought up a number of ideas, and our guys, as they criticize it and poke holes at it, if you're going to just be emotional about it, you're not going to be able to take away as much as you can. And we've had a number of, I think one of our best conversations is when we brought up that, what was it, that $57 million idea, and we put it on the table. And that night was incredible. We had a great 1 hour discussion, but at the same time, I came away thinking, oh, there are a ton of holes, and I thought I had this all thought out. But yeah, coming to Mastermind, prepared with a couple of points, and ideas is good, and having structure and knowing who's going to speak and moving on to the next topic is helpful as well.
Let's circle back to that $57 million idea in a minute, but some of the things about a mastermind, what you need to look for in a mastermind is you need to look for people that have similar interests, but you're not all from the same background. Because like I said before, you don't want that group think. So our mastermind centers around investing. And I know that investing is a broad thing, right? But we all came to this in terms of wanting to invest, and we had different vehicles to invest in, right? James, your background was more stocks, and
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
at the time, yeah, and then you had an interest in real estate, and then for me, I was only in real estate, and then whatever stocks I had were purchased by my parents or whatever, my grandparents, at a younger age. And then the other two guys had other interests as well. One of them was more into small businesses, right, and business development. And then with Zach, what was he into? I forget.
Well, he was into like small, yeah, it's kind of like small business brewing and what artisan things, craft.
Artisan, yeah.
Yeah, so he was our
T-shirt
brewer,
designs,
t-shirt designs
yeah,
and things. So a different approach.
yeah. And then his wife's background actually, which influences him. She's a hedge fund manager. So we're talking about really large companies and really large financial moves that are being made. So he understands that and has that background. So we all came from different backgrounds, but our interest was in investments. Now you can have a mastermind for fitness, right?
Yeah.
You can really have a mastermind like for anything, but it tends to be more in the business realm. If you're listening to other podcasts about masterminding, it's usually having something to do with business, and so ours was as well. We got started out of an idea because another friend of ours, we were talking about masterminds and talking about this book from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and we discussed the value of a mastermind, and we knew other people that were doing it with some success, relative success. So this guy encouraged me to get one set up, and then I set out on a journey to look for people, and James and I had already had a business relationship, so that was easy. It was like, James, you want to do this with me? Let's do a mastermind. And we were three people, and we quickly realized we needed to be four, and then it's like, well, let's grab another one because this other guy is getting a bit flaky, so let's make sure that we always have four people in attendance. And that's how it grew, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
do you have any recommendations on how to find a good mastermind or how to start one?
I wonder, well, in terms of recommendations, I think starting with people that you generally like, perhaps friends that may have similar interests. Because with friends, you might already have these discussions, but they're informal. But having a more formal, structured process, I think you can get way more out of it. So I would start with friends who are interested in investments or may have similar thoughts about certain businesses or projects or other investing vehicles. So go there. But I'm sure there are public masterminds that you can find on social media
Yep.
and through contacting other people. But we haven't done that yet. But
Well, let's look directly at how ours formed. So, like I said, I had a friend that encouraged me to start this, and then I realized, okay, it's going to be me, this guy, and James, and that guy is no longer a part of it. But James and I started out, and James had a friend, Zach, and you basically had a prior relationship with him. He was coming back to the country, so kind of just quickly explain how that connection was made.
For Zach, like he was just coming back from Sri Lanka, and he was there to be part of a. He was the in-country CEO of a large renewable energy company. So I thought, man, this guy has. I mean, we've been good friends for a while, but he has a lot of experience just straight out of being in upper management, being a CEO of a company, even though it's overseas. So I thought that could bring a lot of good insight. And he's also a very critical thinker,
Hmm.
and he's very good at, if you ask him to, he will, look into your issues or your ideas and really give you good advice, or, things that don't work, he'll point it out. But we've been friends for a long time. We were colleagues at the school that I work at, and so that's how I've known him, and we're good family friends as well. So when I asked him and brought up the idea, he said, "Yeah, he would be interested," and so that's when I introduced him to the mastermind with Josh.
Yeah. And then it was really funny how Chris came into the mastermind because it's one that ties in with all three of us, but I don't think that we really recognize how it tied in. Basically, the story goes we realized that we needed a fourth for our mastermind. So I was kind of on the lookout, and Zach was having a chili cook off or cook off, I guess. Yeah, it was a cook off. People would enter in, their chili dishes, and then we would have a vote, and at the end, the winner would get a prize, whatever. Anyway, so we're at this chili cook-off. It was in the summer, and in Singapore, so it's quite hot, and we're eating chili outside, which is a bit nuts. But I meet this guy Chris, and I start talking to him, and I realize, he's got a background in business, and he's a really cool dude. He's very thoughtful. Like he's measured in how he communicates, which is quite different, I think, than me and Zach. James, I would say you're quite measured in the way you communicate. You don't just kind of shoot your mouth off the way Zach and I do. But yeah, so I really like this guy Chris, and I started thinking to myself, man, he would be a really good addition to this mastermind. And I had no idea that James and Zach already knew Chris quite well. I think Zach and Chris were really good friends, right?
Yeah, because Zach's brother attended the church that Chris went to, so they've seen each other multiple times as well. So that, I mean, that's one of the reasons why he was at this chili cook-off. I mean, because they
Yeah.
had a prior relationship. So
Yeah, so I asked the guys, and they're like, "Yeah, we know Chris. Let's do it. Let's get Chris in." And Chris said yes. So it's been the four of us on this journey for the past 2 years. And one of the major benefits that we've seen is, and I think if you asked our wives this, is we've become more thoughtful husbands. We've certainly grown our personal or family's net wealth by a lot, actually. Um, all of us have doubled our net wealth in the past 2 years. Some more than others, but at least doubled it. And
mhm.
we're just starting to really, really get outside of ideas and start putting action into those ideas and getting things done. So our mastermind, up until about 3 months ago, looked like this. And I would recommend you guys, if you're starting out a mastermind, you're just brand new to it, to do it like this first. What we did was we wrote out what we wanted to accomplish in an hour. So for us, all four of us are Christians. We decided to open up in prayer to get our minds right and make sure that we're doing this for the right thing, and that God can just be in the midst of what we're doing. And we decided to open up in prayer, and then we would just take a couple of minutes, each person kind of share like one thing that you have learned and one thing that you're working on, something like that. And then we also discussed something that you're reading, what you're learning from it, and a very, very short time to just ask a question, right? You can ask a question of somebody if they've said something that they've learned that was interesting. You have a moment to ask a quick question. Then after that, we jump into the hot seat, right?
Right.
And what's the hot seat?
The hot seat is each week we rotate one guy, and they're in the hot seat, and we get to, well, they either bring an idea or they tell us about what they're currently doing, and the other three guys are just grilling that guy with tons and tons of questions to make sure they're thinking through things correctly, or pointing out again blind spots that they may not see. And we dedicate most of our time to that hot seat.
Yeah, that's right. And a cool thing that's happened in the hot seat before is people have brought really interesting resources to the table. Like, you have this idea, you're sitting in the hot seat, and you have two or three other people that are like, hey, have you thought about using this app? This app will help you with this thing. Or, oh, I read this book that there's a couple chapters in this book that are really going to help you push this idea forward. Or I know this guy, or my uncle is an expert in this. So that's been really cool to be able to utilize that aspect of the mastermind, right?
Yeah, definitely the using each other's networks have been huge. We've tapped into each other's networks to just ask certain questions or to explore more of an idea, and that's been super helpful. And especially when we've been talking about actually real estate. Come from, all four of us come from different parts of the country in the U.S., and so we've been able to work each other's networks like that to get answers to our
Yeah.
questions.
Some of the topics that have come up in the mastermind hot seat have been about real estate. Some of them have been about Zach and his brewing. Another
Yeah,
is a drop shipping company, getting started up with that,
yeah,
that kind of that small business entrepreneurship. And then others have just been like progress checks where you've been working on a project and then you're back in the hot seat, because we would essentially rotate it every time there would be someone new in the hot seat, but then every week it would be a new person, and you would end up coming back around every fourth, for us, every fourth mastermind. We would have masterminds every other Thursday. So we wouldn't meet every week just because our time schedules didn't really allow it. And we
mhm,
thought that every month would be a little too infrequent, right? We would kind of lose the momentum. And momentum's
yeah.
important, yeah?
Yeah, because if you have a conversation, and there's some interesting points that we didn't cover, 1 month later we're going to forget everything
Yeah.
about that conversation. So
Yeah.
I think a 2 week check-in has been a good time for us, just to, we still have some of those ideas fresh in our mind from 2 weeks ago, but we've been given some time to think about it.
And it's enough time for things to change, right? For there to be a
Yeah,
little bit of progress. Maybe a
right. So
week
something
is
to
a
report
little,
back.
yeah. For us,
Hmm.
especially because we're doing like part-time investment, we're not fully into the business that we're discussing. You know, a lot can happen in a week for a business, but as for an investor, maybe not. Maybe you need a couple of weeks. Especially, like I said, when you're doing it part-time, you need a couple of weeks to be able to, you know, get answers back from something or find a free moment after hanging out with the wife and playing with the kids and doing your social duties,
Yeah,
and work, right?
right, right.
To then dig into your little project. So after we would do the hot seat, our mastermind would finish up with was it 3 action items that we were going to do over the next 2 weeks, and then the following mastermind we would do a progress report at the beginning, and it would just kind of be that cycle. We would close with a prayer as well. So that was up until about 3 months ago, and then we switched, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so one of us had an idea of maybe using the time during Mastermind to maybe work on a very specific project. But the project would allow all of us, all four of us, to grow. Didn't matter where our knowledge was based on the idea that we were working with, but it allowed us to grow in our own ways. And so we decided to do more of like a case study. And we all, I think now, because of Mastermind, I think, and because of you, Josh, we came in, with different interests, but now we're all kind of interested in real estate, mainly because we've been talking about it so much. Chris and Zach are also very interested in real estate. So we've decided to pick a kind of a project, a case study project based on real estate, and to move forward and learn about that. And maybe, Josh, you want to talk about the specific project that we're doing?
Yeah, definitely. It's been really interesting to see how we've all kind of drifted towards real estate. Yeah, it's cool. So what we have decided to do is we have decided to kind of go with the learning model where you do plus one. So you have this knowledge of something, you have this understanding of something, but you want to continue to build on that. So you always want to add like a degree or an element of difficulty. So we took a look at the space that we're already in, and James and I are in multifamily space. So we own two multifamily units. We started out with a fourplex. We also have a triplex. So we like the multifamily space. There are some nuances to it that are different than other types of property investments, right? Because not all property is the same. You can have single family, you can have commercial, you can have the little like storage units, whatever. All of this is considered in the real estate realm, but each one of them, they have their little nuances. Well, for us, we see in terms of cash flow, the multifamily space is the best for us. So we decided that we're going to be in the multifamily space, but instead of being in small multifamily space, let's go a bit larger. And instead of being comfortable and staying in the market that we're currently in, how about in our mastermind we explore a new market, right? So we went
Hmm.
ahead and we set some parameters so that the first two meetings that we had, we filtered through the different parameters, and then we came up with essentially like a project to do, a project outline.
Hmm.
Now, our project outline is this is the city that we're going to be investigating to know more about the market and do a market analysis. And then these are the filters that we need to apply to find a property for that market.
Yeah, we went through, so we're basically establishing processes or steps that anybody who's investing or looking for a multifamily, or really what we're looking to is commercial properties, because we're looking at more than four doors, and how to go from nothing to owning one. So we're putting in all these processes, and one of the processes is to identify a market. And we've actually done we spent a whole mastermind meeting talking about how to pick out a market.
Mm-hmm.
And there were, I believe, eight indicators that we figured out that if we can cover these eight indicators and we can do a bit of research on it, then we
Mm-hmm.
can actually find out whether this is a good market or not. And then at that point, we had to do a comparative analysis to other markets because we needed to see what other markets were like too. Now, for Josh, you had experience in this already because we've already owned two multifamilies, and I helped with part of that as well. But Zach and Chris didn't have any idea where to begin, and so they were catching up and they were learning in that process. So we had to take care of that first, identifying a market,
Zach
and
crushed it, by the
then
way. Like his energy and effort into that aspect of it was huge. I mean, he went beyond what we were going to do, which I think was important because since James and I had the experience, I think we were going to cut some corners. But since Zach didn't, he really, really dug into it and got super analytical and brought some amazing ideas to the table.
yeah, and I've also learned some new things from that experience as well for myself. So it's good. And so we then outlined what we had to do next. We had to cover from not only identifying a market, but building a team. And so
Yeah.
currently we're actually in our team building process.
Hmm.
And what do we mean by team building is that we're looking for really four core members of our team. And that includes finding a lender, a real estate agent, and then what are the other two again?
A contractor and a property manager.
Right. So our first step was to look into lenders first, and so our goal was then to split up and basically make calls or go online and research and find out, which lenders are going to be able to lend to us in a commercial property. And through this experience, we're learning by doing, right?
Hmm.
So, I've never actually had a personal experience in calling someone new because the lender that we've used in the past is someone that Josh contacted. So, Zach's doing this, Chris is doing this, and so we are just basically gaining a lot of knowledge about every step of the way in terms of going from not having anything to hopefully owning a property in the future.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We went into this idea not necessarily with the intent to buy, right?
Right.
But we did want to keep it in the realm of possibility. We
Hmm.
wanted to use this, like you said, as a case study, as an exercise. And one of the components that we built in was that it was going to be such a large project that we could not do it ourselves. Why did we do that? Do you remember? What
Well,
was it
we,
going to
we
force
really
us to do?
it was forced us going to learn about OPM, which is
OPM.
other people's money.
Yep.
I mean, we hear about these schemes or projects on through media that you can buy a house, no money down, use other people's money. Those ideas are good to think about, but until you actually go and pursue it and really get to know exactly how to do it by doing it yourself, we wouldn't know. And I think to challenge ourselves, we decided to do a large project because that would require millions of dollars.
Yeah, so guys, get your checkbooks ready. You can send your check to what's your address in Singapore?
Uh,
So,
we really had to figure out like we're looking at millions of dollars, right? So in
yeah.
order to get something like this happening, there's no way we could write the checks ourselves. So
Yeah.
we're forcing ourselves to understand that aspect of investing,
Yeah, I
at
mean,
least real estate investing.
I think in cash we will need hundreds of thousands of dollars in
Hmm.
cash because we will finance the property if we do identify a property and we feel comfortable enough to move on it. But OPM was something that James and I, from an investment standpoint, we were interested in because we basically said, like, this was back 2 years ago when we bought our first property, that we wanted to buy a couple of properties together under our LLC as a company, as a partnership, and stabilize them, and then be able to kind of have not only that track record, but that confidence in ourselves to then go out and ask for other people's money. Because look, we don't want to lose other people's money. We don't want to lose our money, but we definitely don't want to lose other people's money. We want to make people money along with ourselves. And
Right.
um, we we really, really wanted to make sure that we knew what we were doing. But I think now that we've done two houses, we do have that confidence that we can secure people's finances to the best of our ability. I mean, you
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen. Look
Right.
at look at COVID. You never know. There's never a sure bet.
Yeah.
But we do want to have the confidence that we know what we're doing and we're doing everything that we can to protect our investment and other people's investment.
Yeah.
Why is it important though to use other people's money?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, I was just gonna mention that I mean, you think about it. Everybody has ideas. But whenever they try to put their ideas in the act or like execute their ideas, one of the biggest challenges is starting capital. Not everyone has the luxury of having, a millionaire family who can just support any project that you have. And so eventually you're going to have to either borrow money from a bank or go out and ask for money from your friends and family. Either way, these are all other people's money. It's not going to be yours. So when it comes to just getting ideas off the ground, getting that starting capital or getting capital at all is hugely important. And so even when it comes to real estate, we wanted to make sure that we understood the whole process. Because even if we don't use it for real estate, understanding OPM or raising funds is going to be important for any other business as well. But right now we're just focused on real estate.
Yeah, I think when you use OPM, especially in in the structure of a business, you can do it in so much that you can actually charge other people a certain fee for running their money through your investment idea. What I mean by that is you're going to be able to offer them a certain percentage return, but then anything over that, you're going to be able to take some money on, or you're going to be able to have some sort of like registration fee or management fee, asset management fee. And that means that because you're the active person that's doing the investment, and you're providing a service to them, even though they're giving you money. I know this sounds like a bit dodgy. It's not dodgy at all. It's used all the time. So someone else is giving you money, which sounds great, but hey, you're the one that's working to invest that money. And this is
Yeah.
called an asset management fee. You're taking a little bit of money to manage the money that they've given you.
Yeah. You're creating passive investment opportunities for people who have money. In turn, you are using that money to fund your active investments. And so it's kind of if things are done well and if things are, if things are planned well and executed well, it's definitely a win-win situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is kind of how we structure our meetings now. We will get together and we will discuss what next step we need to take on our outline. And currently, like James said, we're working on that core four. Last week, we were calling lenders and getting information about how much loans were and everything. And this week, we have a meeting on Thursday. We're going to bring all that information back and work together as well on getting a list of contractors. Contractors
Hmm.
is the next team member that we need to look at. So we're going to pull information about questions that we need to ask contractors and then also build out that list and start making calls. I'm assuming we might start making calls on Thursday while we're all on the phone, maybe so we can all hear somebody leading that, or at least hear from one contractor. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm just dropping this on James for the first time. Do you think that's a good idea?
I mean, yeah, I'm down for it. I'm just not sure how that would work unless it's like what, two phones, or how do we get into the conversation?
We'll figure it out.
But yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, no, I think that's a great idea because we are keeping each other accountable. We are doing the actual work of finding a general contractor, and we're all going to grow from this experience. And so I think that's the best part, learn by doing.
Yeah.
So
And the meeting lasts an hour, and it's a little less structured than, at least by the minute, than our previous style. But it still has a structure in terms of we have our outline and we're looking at our outline. And if we tick off one of the boxes, we just move to the next one on the list there on the outline. If you guys have any questions about our masterminds or really anything we discuss, leave it in the comment section below and we will 100% get to that, unless for some reason it ends up in spam, which occasionally it does. Those comments get in spam, but I'll try to check that out. James, let's go back to the $57 million idea. You remember that one?
yeah,
So we had this awesome mastermind one day, where I went back to Singapore back in October, and we decided to do it live because we had done so many digitally, and we decided to do one live. So we met for burgers, and we kicked about this crazy idea,
yeah.
huge idea. So do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, I mean the details are kind of vague now, like fuzzy, because we haven't talked about it in a while. But we were sitting on an airplane when we were going, I think, coming back from Bangkok to Malaysia or Singapore,
Yeah,
and when we were on that kind of like our mini business trip,
yeah,
I think since we had time and we were together and we had nothing else to think about, we were just spewing off ideas like crazy.
yeah,
And one of the ideas we thought about was just talking about property management and being having all the tools of a real estate agent, property manager, general contractor, all in one platform, but also operated by a bot. So basically, if a tenant needed something, they would just message this bot, and that bot would distribute that message to the appropriate person, either property manager or whoever. But basically, it was an automated system um, to kind of get everything more streamlined and to make it more convenient for just everybody. And we were just punching the numbers, and we thought, how many people would buy into this? and we only take a fraction of this. Basically, for example, property managers now are typically their commission's 10%. So we implemented the system, but we only took like, I don't know, 5%. You know, we would, and you look at the market share, the ability to how many people we can get it out to, and then we started multiplying, doing some simple math, and we somehow ended up with some arbitrary number of $27 million or something like that. But it was just a fun idea because it started with having thoughts about real estate, and we were having issues with our property manager, and we're discussing like, how could we get this process even better? What if there was this type of tool and that type of tool? And then we started looking into it and like, why don't we create something like this? So, but then again, we Googled it, right? And then there are systems like this out there, not exactly what we were talking about. And it still could be an idea that we revisit, but it was kind of fun just putting this out there. And then that's when Chris was like, have you looked at this company? I'm like, whoa, that company already exists. And so it's kind of nice because we were kind of tunnel vision on this idea. And then you have others in the mastermind come in and basically, hey, this is a blind spot. Hey, this has already been done, or you're wrong about that, or why not this? So it was a really fun conversation because it was something that everyone could kind of relate to, and because it had to do with customer service, it had to do with real estate, all sorts of things.
Yeah, had to do with efficiency as well.
Yeah, efficiency.
Yeah, one of the funny things is that we have found is there's scaling to this business. And when you're talking about property management, there's only so many properties that a property manager can indeed manage before they need to hire like a second, set of hands. And this app could have been that, right? Like essentially we would have taken some percentages off of the property management fee. However, the amount of properties that a property manager could accept and start to manage more would have meant their earning potential would have risen. But it's like, hey, there's so many properties out there to be managed anyways. So what would happen to some property managers? Well, some property managers would cease to exist. And you know what? They probably should, because they're probably not very good at their job, right? And when we discuss this, like some property managers are not fit to be property managers. So very, very important, guys, about property managers. You need to vet those folks.
Yeah.
You got to vet those folks. We made a mistake and accepted a property manager because they were kind of attached to the company that we bought the property from. And it was horrific. So make sure that you vet your property manager for sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, even if you do a good job vetting, you never know, right?
You never know.
You just have to be nimble enough, flexible enough to find someone else immediately, or to kind of minimize those damages. But I'm glad we kind of went through that experience.
Absolutely.
Now we know. Yeah, now we know.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it probably cost us a couple $1,000, but in terms of learning, that was super valuable. It might have saved us 10,000. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Expat Investors. We really appreciate it. James, really appreciate your partnership with me, not just on this vodcast, but also just in life and with business and everything.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you reaching out, and it's fun to reflect on our learning process, and hopefully you guys who are listening or watching can also learn something from this as well.
If you guys would, if you enjoy this type of stuff, give it a like. And like we said, we are really, really committed to answering your questions, and we have received some. Not enough, but we have received some questions from you guys out there. So if you have any questions for us, leave it in the comment section. We'll get to it. We're really, really open about sharing our successes and failures, especially the failures, because that's how we've learned. Yeah. That's how we've ended up going 2-3 steps beyond after taking that one step back.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have all the answers, but we will share what we know, and hopefully you can glean something from that.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Be blessed. See ya.